Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name's Mike Gallagher, CEO, founder of GGMS, and today I'm joined by Matt from Appointments Today. Now, Matt and us have teamed up, Appointments Today and GGMS. We had a call. It's been maybe a couple months back that we had an initial call, talked about the service, talked about the offering, and what their team does is makes dials into your database based on the filters and mechanisms that we, GGMS, set up. So we find and cultivate all of these hot opportunities. Their team calls through on that with the goal of setting an appointment. So we had that initial call. We've had some great success with it. And what we're going to do now is bring Matt back on. So Matt, say what's up to everybody.
What's up? How's it going, Mike?
What's up? Yeah. So what we're going to do with this call is we're going to go through some feedback. This is basically part 2 of the webinar. So we had that first part where we made the introduction, talked to the community about all the cool things that we can do by partnering these two services together and being able to run them in your business. But now that we've got some results here, we just want to come back. We want to share not only some of the results, but some of the learnings. Like, what type of things did we learn? What type of adjustments did we make to our processes over time just to make them work better together and ultimately get you what you want, which is more appointments. So before we jump into the slides, Matt, give everybody that 15, 30-second rundown, who you are, Appointments Today, little backstory, like just lay it out there. Let everybody know who may not know who you are, what that looks like.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, thank you for having me on. It's always great to be able to share and just meet with the community. And for all of you who don't know, my name is Matt Milia. I'm the owner and founder of Appointments Today. And we pretty much started by accident. This was back in 2014. And so when we first got started, we were a part of a really big national coaching group. And a lot of the agents all had very, very similar challenges. They had a bunch of leads and none of their agents would call the leads. So it was very challenging to get these guys to pick up the phone. And so even in this elite coaching community where people were closing 300, 400, 500 deals a year, they still had challenges with the agents getting on the phone and following up. So we thought about, well, how can we help the industry? And I always loved the training and coaching side of calling. So thought naturally, why not get something started to help people out? So we got started doing expireds and for sale by owners. And all I could say is I'm now very, very excited for this community because the leads are so much easier to set up appointments, have conversations where people actually want to meet with us. So super excited to just deliver more value and really help everybody grow. And now we're going on our 10th year. So it's awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. And tale as old as time about the dialing and not wanting to make the dials, right?
Right.
So it's all fun until you have to hold people accountable. And sometimes that accountability piece is more difficult than it sounds. So that's where your team can come into businesses, help close that gap. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I do have some team members inside of the chat. So if anybody has any questions as we go through this, drop it in the chat. The team's there to help support as we go through this, and we'll do some Q&A at the end and anything that wasn't able to get answered inside of that chat. But just know that they're there. If you have any questions about anything, they'll be able to do that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share the slides and take it away.
Awesome. All right. Well, so guys, what I'm going to go through, this will be a little bit of a different variation from the first time that I had come in. I think it was back in April. So I'm going to share with you guys how you can close an additional 1 to 2 deals every single month. And really you can do it without having to make any phone calls, which I know a lot of people don't like doing, which is why we're here. And so we're going to help you guys, stop falling short of your sales goals and really predictably grow your business year after year. And regardless of what's going on with the NAR, we'll show you how you guys can do this. And the great thing about it is I'm also going to go through some of some things about the NAR. So kind of help you guys as far as getting through and how to present to these folks. Again, my name is Matt Milia. I gave you guys a little bit of a rundown on me before, but 38 years old, live in Ohio. I actually met Mike and down in Tampa, and I lived so close to their headquarters, but we never connected right up front. But we got connected through someone mutual, and just really excited to kind of help you guys grow. So Ryan started appointments today. I was one of the team leads on a Cleveland real estate team, the Stasic Group. We were just stuck. We had great agents. They were amazing on the phone. We had tons of leads, lots of systems in place, but they would never call their leads. They might text them, they might email them, and then we tell them to call, and they say, "Oh, I'll send another email." They just not like the phone. Or if they would call, it'd be one call, two calls. They get busy, something else comes up, and then the lead gets abandoned. So the biggest thing for us is kind of helping agents condense time and going in and really helping them do those activities they need to in order to generate opportunities. Really what the inside sales agents did for our team. So I was one of the original inside sales agents. We brought on a couple of more, or we brought on a few more, some in-house, some virtual as we went. And we went from doing 100 deals a year to over 200 plus. So, I mean, essentially doubling our business. And the great thing is we weren't spending more money on more leads. We were just converting the leads at a much higher level. And so we finally had time to really work on the business, figure out what strategies we needed to do, figure out the trainings we needed, figure out how we can leverage all of these different tools and really just different elements that we had to grow the business instead of having to just scramble and be constantly in reaction mode.
Yeah, and we've seen that so much, Matt, where oftentimes the focus gets put so much on generating new opportunities and bringing new blood into the system, which you need. You need
Yep.
new people to talk to.
100%.
But we also have these databases where it's 40, 50, 80,000 contacts.
Yep.
They have more than enough people to talk to, right? You still need to bring new people into it, but let's figure out ways not only to identify those people, but when we find those, we call them hand raisers, right? The people we put in the priority list. When we identify those people, that's when that call actually needs to be made, right? We're doing all the sifting and sorting, and that's where your team, if they're not going to do this work in-house, they can lean on people like you and your team to make that happen, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, the age-old saying, what would you say it is that we do, and how do we help you grow? So what we essentially offer is we have skilled U.S. callers. So a lot of our guys, they're in the Americas. So I mean, they've lived in the States. They're basically we call them expats, expatriates. So they all sound like they're local. That makes a huge difference in just the overall results. And one of the things that we're also doing, and it's one of the main things, is calling priority tasks. We focus really heavily on those priority tasks, and our goal is to get through all of those on a weekly, monthly basis, daily basis. Sometimes there's too many of them, but our goal is to call those and stay in front of them as much as we can, so that we can, that's where the low-hanging fruit is. These guys are taking actions to essentially either go see a home, or they're looking at the same home multiple times. So we want to be there as that resource to get in front of them quickly and be that voice for them. We're going to call active leads, new leads, and basically the qualify task. And then we also offer to train your existing callers. So if you have folks that are already calling for you, we'll help with that as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know that we talked about that too much last time,
we did.
But the fact that, we touched on it, but I think people need to understand, you may have virtual assistants that are already making dials. You may have a team that's already making dials, but Matt does have another arm of this that allows you to tap into him and his team to help with some of those training things. So as long as, you guys align with what the methodology is of the dials and how their approach is, they can come in and help strengthen your existing systems and processes. So that's definitely something that, for the people who have some of these existing things, it never hurts to see what you can do. Training is always a good investment.
Yeah, and that was kind of the aha moment for us, because there's so many people that we talk to and they already have assistants, or they'll have, their agents make the calls. And so, we've even helped train, entire teams on like scripting and methodology and how to approach the leads and what your objective and goal is on these. And so and for us, like the biggest thing is we try to train people on how to not have commission breath, because when they go in and they're trying to push these people into an appointment, or they're pushing them just for the sake of pushing them, we want to have that conversation, ask the difficult questions that are ultimately going to get us to the motivation as to why they're on the site in the first place. Because I mean, look, I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but no one wakes up in the middle of the night and says, "Oh, gee, I'm going to go look at a bunch of houses now." And if they do that, that's fine. They're probably putting Joe Blow or some fake other crazy name, and we won't get into that here. But we all know the fake people put their information so that they can look at homes, but very rarely is someone going to put their full name, their telephone number, their email address. If they're doing that, there's got to be some serious interest there, at least some. At some point they had some interest. And the biggest thing I want to talk about is the NAR, basically the whole NAR lawsuit. And I know it's been all around, and I feel like that's probably stopping a lot of people from taking action because they don't know what they don't know. And so when we first started this, now, mind you, we were doing a lot of the things that the NAR is requesting back in like 2012. I know with the MLS and the fees and all that, we won't go into that whole side of it. But what I want to share with you guys is that we used to have something called the Buyer's Advantage program. With that program, we essentially would say, hey, we're going to give you backstage pass access to the MLS. We're going to respond to your calls day and night. We actually had like an after-hours service too that would respond to calls. So if somebody had questions on stuff, we'd, of course, they couldn't give the real estate information, but we had this set up for them. Our entire team, we would have multiple agents that would go and show a house. So if they wanted to see something, we'd show it to them right away. And so we positioned it in a way where these guys actually had to pay us $9.95 and sign the buyer agency agreement. And we said, hey, we are going to also get paid 3% commission. And we had a really good close rate on that. And the best thing about it, and this is where my excitement comes in, it brings us back to one of the challenges that we even had as a real estate team is we really struggled with our agent conversion for buyer leads. We would be, oh, we're working with this person. They like us. It looks like things are going well. And then they would disappear. Mike, did you want to?
Oh no, that's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just agreeing.
And it happened so often. And so when we would sit down with them, now, were there times that we couldn't get the $9.95? Sure. At that point, we're saying, okay, well, hey, we'll get you reserved in for $5.95, $4.95. At the end of the day, it didn't matter about that money that was exchanging hands, whether it's $100 or $1,000. Money exchanged hands. So at that point, there was some trust in there. There was also vested interest, knowing that, well, gee, if I decide to use another agent, I'm not going to get that money back. And so we had it set up in a way where, I mean, our buyer close rates were through the roof. And that's something that I'm actually training my callers up on now, and we'll help develop that with our clients. We've got some additional trainings on that to kind of help you get a higher conversion rate and how to have those conversations and what things you could essentially do to really leverage that. And then a big lesson that we learned, we could set a lot of appointments, but there is a gap between the appointment being set and the appointment actually running and meeting. And in a lot of cases, it's because the prospect will forget, or they didn't they didn't write down the time, whatever the case may be. So we've actually developed and kind of paired up with a company where we're now offering AI videos that are basically customized appointment reminders. And the cool thing about it is We have like a scripting, a framework that we go off of, and then we plug in specific variables. One of the variables is the day and time we're going to meet at the house, their first name, their last name, their address. All of that makes it seem like it's personalized, and that really has helped us drive results. And they have worked a lot on. We've tested out a bunch of different organizations with the AI side of it, and what we found is that I believe we found somebody that is going to really help us increase that appointment show up rate, which is really what we want at the end of the day.
Yep. And that's anyone who's ever used any sort of dialer or even booked appointments on your own. There's always this drop off in between there, right? Especially when you're dealing with a colder lead. They agree to that next step or that phone call if you're using virtual assistants or have done dialing programs in the past, right? And so that is one of those things that, you know, you got to crack the code on, and what Matt's doing there is helping bridge that piece so that handoff, that we have a higher success rate when it gets transferred over to the agent.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did for our Cleveland real estate company, we had a company come in. They shot this like, I mean, it was a big investment, but it definitely paid massive dividends for us because we would have this company came in, they interviewed a bunch of our past clients. We call them raving fans. We would interview these raving fans about our services and how we help them sell their home. And so we had these guys shoot these videos for us, and I mean, the results were amazing. We would send that right after our inside sales team would set up an appointment.
Yeah.
When we did some quick stats, we realized it was about a 45% run rate before those videos. After the videos, we were averaging between 75 and 80% of those appointments, which is huge. And so we realized really quickly there needs to be touch points that happen in between the setting of the appointment versus running, which is some lessons we've learned. And so I know it might be a little difficult to see these results. And guys, if you actually look directly in the group, there are quite a few very positive testimonials about what we've done. But we've worked with Nick now for going on a few months. He's already got some things that are going to be setting up, looking like they're going to close. We've been setting up a good amount of appointments for him. Lauren actually got her first closing in escrow. And so our clients on average are usually about 2.5 months before they get their first deal, whether it's either in escrow or they sign an agreement, and which helps with condensing the time of getting your return as quickly as possible, which is what our goal is.
Yep.
And we've had a total, from what I've been told from our team, we've had out of all of our clients, we've had about 7 deals that are in between escrow and signed, which is great. And now that the NAR came out with that, I see that as an opportunity because I feel like a lot more people are going to close and basically get a lot more of these deals because they got to sign the agency agreement.
Yep.
Same with Tom. Tom's actually already got a closing, and it also, we've worked with them setting appointments very consistently. And last one here is Jim. We just started with Jim. Jim has it's been about a month only, and we have 22 appointments for him. So
that's crazy. With 138 valid conversations, what's that percentage there? That's got to be like,
that's
15 something great. I'll do the math on it. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, I probably should have came up with that. But yeah, I mean, out of, I think that's like an 11%, maybe 11 or 12% dial to conversation rate. But yeah, I mean, for him, we're calling.
Yeah, 16% of the valid conversations turned into a buyer appointment.
Which, I mean, yeah, it's great. And that's really where I think the big advantages of working with GGMS is because we have it set up where you guys are essentially, the leads are just teed up for us, which makes a huge difference. So, some lessons that we've learned when we first got started, and I mean, I got a shout out to Josh here because Josh kind of set us straight. We were using an external system to make the calls, and what we realized is that to get the best results, we got to go directly out of Sierra and make those calls. And so we've really, and that's just following the behaviors and the triggers and everything that happens when we're calling those. It's really helped us just massively increase our results. And then a couple other things, of course, the appointments needing that touch after we set them, and whether that's the either agent calling to confirm or an email that maybe has some information about you. And so we're building out that whole element for the clients we're working with so that they have a solid system in place that when the appointment's set, because that's the biggest key time. We could set all the appointments in the world, but if they don't run, that's really what we want to help you do, is increase that show up rate.
Yep.
And so really why this works, and I kind of relate this to like fishing. When you're just kind of fishing out there with your rod and you're hoping and praying that you get a bite, it really can be challenging to be out there all day and not get anything. It's the same as calling. But when we make calls with the GGMS leads, it's like we're not just using a fishing rod, but we also have like a automated fish finder that finds every single possible fish, and then we have the best possible bait that's like these guys they can't resist it. And so that behavior based calling, the triggers that kick in, it makes such a difference in the results, instead of kind of approaching your database as if you're just shooting everywhere and hoping for the best. It makes a huge difference. I don't know, Mike, do you want to?
No, I totally agree. I mean, we're averaging almost a 25% answer rate into the priority list across all databases, some of them much, much higher, 50, 60% answer rates. So it's exactly that. It is spending less time focused on things that really don't move the needle. It's the 80-20 thing. The problem is a lot of times it's really easy to focus on the 80% because there's so many leads, the 80% of the database that doesn't need attention. By doing what we do and all of the nurturing that we do and the text and the emails and the digital marketing and all the different elements that are GGMS, it brings those opportunities straight to the top. And then when you pair it with something like Appointments Today, now we're actually following through and calling on those opportunities, which is that, I don't want to say final piece, but the missing piece. Like we just talked about, hey, if we have some touch points in between meeting set and meeting held, like if we have some touch points in there, we increase it by X. Well, if we have someone actually make the dial when they do the activity, that's what helps us increase our results. And ultimately what the agent's looking for, like all of these services, the digital marketing stuff, everything we do in the CRM, everything your team does, these are all elements that help us get to a transaction. And that transaction is what it pays the bills, right? And it either keeps you doing business with us or doesn't. The challenge is there's some key parts in this process that have to be done, or you're never going to get to that paycheck that you're looking for, right? And so that thing that you guys do, which is after we do all of the cool things with the fish finder and all the bait, and we have them
Right.
and we have them on the hook, you guys actually make that dial so that we can find out, one, are you interested in having a conversation with us? Yes or no? And two, can we meet, right? Can we, whether it's buyer, seller, whatever their needs, wants, or desires are, can I get you, in touch with an agent? And can we meet up? So it's that piece that just has to happen. And again, whether they do it in-house or whether they hire someone like you and your team, either way, there's no way around it, right? It's only through it. And it's like, which version, how are you going to go through this? Right. So that's my thing.
Absolutely.
That's I'm done with the soapbox there on that one. So.
No, hey, I wanted you to talk on it. I mean, you guys built it. So yeah, absolutely. Well, so a lot of you guys are probably thinking, man, why are you sharing this with me? And so here's the thing: the conventional real estate model is broken, and I know that may be an unpopular thing to say, and I'm also an agent myself, but we get to a point where we get so busy throughout the day, whether it's putting out fires, whether it's putting signs in yard, whether it's negotiating with the other agent. I could probably name 100 different things that are going to stop us from doing what is important. And these are those leveraged activities that's going to help us get to the gold. Most agents call once or twice a day and then they move on. And look, guys, I'm going to say this. Most agents are going to be better at converting a lead than an inside sales agent's going to be. I'm saying that with 100% transparency. But the reason why we're here, it's not so that we can be better, it's because we want to help you leverage your time. Because even though you're awesome at what you do, you're the expert, you're the local, you're like the digital mayor of your neighborhood. People know who you are. People want to talk with you, but you generally just don't have enough time. And then even if you do have the time, sometimes you just don't want to do those things. You just don't want to make the calls. So that's kind of where we come in. We do the dirty work, which is what a lot of people don't want to do. And so if we're helping you leverage that time and we multiply time and the right activities, it's going to generate massive results, and it's going to allow you to get even better at what you're doing, because you're going to be able to go and talk with more people, which means you're going to get more closings and you're just going to have a lot more bats. So on average, when we ran the numbers, we are getting about 2 additional appointments each week on our entry level programs. Now, this kind of runs across, well, it runs across the board on all the programs that we have, but thinking about just on an average. So some people are a little more, some are a little less, but at 2 additional appointments each week, even if you just are not great at closing people down and you're just whatever the case may be, even with a low 15% close rate, you could essentially be signing up an additional 1.2 people a month, which averages out about 14 closings a year. So I mean, in 14 closings a year, I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. It's a great number. And so what this is doing for you guys, it's condensing time, it's reducing stress and anxiety. It kind of gets you off of that roller coaster where you close 5 deals and you have nothing for 4 months, and you close more and then you have nothing for months. We're helping you guys basically by doing the stuff that you don't want to do, which is constantly making those phone calls for you consistently so that you can save that time and so that you can get better results. And we want to help you go from essentially doing, our ultimate goal is to help you go from doing 1 appointment a week to an appointment a day. If we can get you to a place where you're doing an appointment every single day, and that probably won't be the entry level package, but if we, as you start to see a return and you start to increase that investment, it just makes sense to double down and get more out of what you have going on. And for us, we want to really help you so you can finally hit your goals, but not just hit them, exceed them. And so the one thing that everybody generally asks, well, what's the training like with these callers? Well, one thing that we do that's very uncommon, we train our guys every single day. So we go in, we make sure that we role play with them, we listen to calls, we really get in the trenches to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. We also certify all of our guys. So they actually go through a test. They have to role play with us. We give them a series of objections, the same objections that everybody gets. I want to wait. I want to think about it. I want to continue to look around. My uncle's brother twice removed as a real estate agent. All of those crazy objections that we all get, we train them on how to handle all that stuff. And then we role play, we do call listening, and then we have, feedback from the group, which I think is, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, I was gonna say this ongoing training part is so important, right? And that working back and forth with the team, doing the role playing, looking at different, common objections that are coming up in the conversations, and being able to make sure that the people are solid on that. So important.
And I think too, I mean, the biggest thing with the with the objections, I mean, I've even listened to agents calls where someone will say, "Oh, I'm just looking," and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, continue to use the site and have a wonderful day." And I'm like, "Are you serious?
Yeah.
We're not. We're going to let that go."
Yeah.
So and again, it's all about that repetition, that practice. And so we go in, all of our guys are what we call NEPQ certified, so neuro emotional persuasion questions. They are certified in asking really difficult questions. We even will ask people, go to the extent of, "Hey, it sounds like you have a really good situation right now. Why look to buy? What's got you even looking?" And in a lot of cases, we do that because we want to find out from them what is the true reason that they are even considering this in the first place. And the way that we train our guys, we want to come through in a way that doesn't elicit pressure. One of our clients, they actually asked me a question the one day, and it was so funny because they go, I get a kick out of this. Why do your guys always say they're just Alex when they call? And the reason why we do that, because it is kind of goofy, but the reason why we do that is because people aren't listening when we initially call. In a lot of cases, if we're like, "Oh, hey, it's Jeff with Keller Williams Real Estate. How are you doing?" Everybody opens the call the same way. That person mentally checks out. But if we're like, "Oh, hey, Jeff," I'm like, "Yeah, who's this?" "Oh, hey, Jeff, it's just Alex." And then it gets them to pay attention. Like, who the heck is just Alex? And then we can go through everything with them listening to us, and then it helps us to continue on the conversation. I can go more into the script, but we only have so much time, so I won't go too deep into that. But ultimately, we ask better questions that cause people to take massive action, and that's really our goal. If we can get them to move through the process of, okay, I love the site, I love everything that's on here. Now I need to find the agent that I'm going to work with. That's where we want to get to. And so I know a lot of you guys that are probably sitting there, man, I've heard all this stuff before. I've tried this. It's never worked. Well, I'm going to say something that I know is going to be wildly unpopular, but I'd rather say it so people understand where we're coming from. When we first started, we hired overseas. It was almost our entire staff. And so why did we do that? Well, it was really, really low cost. And I believe that even though like we have staff members that are they're overseas, they're amazing at what they do. I couldn't run my company without them. But we don't put them on the phone. We just don't. A lot of the times people they don't know what they don't know. There's a trust factor. So if we sound like we're calling from your marketplace, it makes a world of difference. And so in a lot of cases, what happens, why things don't work, sometimes we're cost conscious instead of skill conscious. We're thinking, well, what's the lowest possible investment? And then we end up giving up the long-term return because we're focused solely on what it costs us. Ultimately, it costs us a lot more. We don't have the skillful callers. And then there's also the mindset I'd rather have my agents call. Hey, I think that's great. But we've realized this. Mike, you can talk on this. I mean, and I won't want you to, yeah. I mean, we don't want to call anyone out, but like we realize that as agents, the model's broken. It's not like it used to be where you get a call from a neighbor, someone down the road. Hey, I want to sell my house. And you get those calls every so often. And if your business is solely on referrals, God bless you, that's amazing. But in most cases, most people need to have these extra tools at their disposal so that they can grow and get really where they want to get to. And so yeah, if you can have your agents call and they're specifically going to call, that's great, do that. But it makes it's very difficult, and they get busy, and then once they get busy, they stop making the calls.
Yeah, real quick, you were talking a second ago about how you want something that's cheap, but you want it to be good and all that. So it brings me back to this thing here, which is the iron triangle of like good, fast, and cheap, right? And where everything intersects, right? And if you want fast and you want good, it's usually expensive. If you want good and you want cheap, it tends to be a little slow. And if you want fast and you want cheap, it's usually low quality, right? So it's like one of those things that you really have to understand that fast and cheap sometimes makes the most economical sense. It may be the cheapest option. It may feel or sound like the fastest way to get there. But it's usually never that easy. So just wanted to throw that out there for a second.
No, I'm so glad you shared that. And it was funny because I was actually, that was in the back of my mind to bring that up, but the saying, but I knew I was going to butcher it. So I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to bring that up, but I'm glad you had it.
Yeah.
But guys, one of the things that really makes us different, number one, I mean, I am a senior citizen in this industry. Being in an inside sales company that's been around for a decade and hasn't changed their name 75 times, never changed our name. I just found that out. I didn't even realize that that's a thing. But there are inside sales agencies that they change their names multiple times because they don't have.
Oh, they just rebrand it, and yeah.
Yes, and again, I mean, look, there are a lot of great organizations out there, but we've been at this. I think we're one of the oldest ones right now in existence, which is insane. Being 10 years at this, I mean, there were only a couple of other companies out there when we were doing it when we first got started, and so. And they weren't they were like more on the administrative side. They weren't focused solely on inside sales. So I think that's really one of the big things that makes us different. We've done this for a while and we've had continued success. And we don't just call, we're calling everything real estate related. We're not just calling, Sierra leads. We're not just calling GGMS leads. We're not just calling PPC leads. We're calling expireds, FISBOs. We call probate. I mean, you name it, we're calling it if it's real estate related. And so, and the biggest thing inside of the platform, we're focusing on your priority leads, your active, your new, and your qualified leads. And then, we offer administrative services, recruiting services. We'll offer you like your own virtual staff member if you want to have like your very own person. We'll coach your current caller. And something that we are rolling out now, of course, is we're going to actually be offering AI video, which will be personalized for each person with basically a model call, doing the video for them. So you don't even need to go on the video, which is pretty awesome. So a lot of times, people ask like, hey, what can I expect? Normally on year one, we're seeing about 8 to 12 closings. And, a lot of that I've kind of adjusted some of my numbers because we're seeing a faster cycle. And I mean, a lot of it, I believe, has to do with GGMS and having those extra touch points, because when we get them on the phone, we're just bridging gaps. We're just asking basic questions and kind of digging a little deeper to get them to open up. So once we know what the scenario is, it's game over. And one of our clients that we're working with, Lauren, she actually had a client. They met long ago. There was some confusion about like the setup time and the date and when the appointment was going to happen. And so it ended up where they never ended up meeting. And we just so happened to call them again because we were going through like the actives and like, well, hey, yeah, I actually just sold my other place and we have the funds now. Yeah, we'd love to have, her show us some homes. And then she showed them some homes and they signed right then and there.
Wow.
So right. And that's a testament to like, how you guys have things set up, because if we wouldn't have known, if we just kind of blasted the system, we wouldn't have known where to call. And I believe that active one moved into priority because what they were doing.
Some things that they were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so like on the second year, guys, we're averaging like 16 to 24 deals. It doubles up. And the reason why it doubles up is because at that point, we have an entire list of folks that we've been calling for a long period of time. And so we're building up the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm not quite sure why some of you guys are here. Maybe you have an unpredictable pipeline. Maybe your agents don't call. Maybe you got leads falling through the cracks, or you don't have the time or desire to do this on your own. And so it's kind of where we come in. For us, we have our base level package. It's only $750 a month as a cash outlay. Which, I mean, if you look at this from average sales price here, because I want to make sure we focus on ROI. If your average sales price is $300,000, let's say you're charging a conservative 2.5%, and you're walking away with $7,500. If we're looking at 8 as the average closings, that's $60,000 in revenue in a year. And I know that doesn't account for expense and everything, but then if you look back at the expense of what you're investing into us, I mean, you're looking at roughly 9,000. It's a 6.5 plus return on your money. Which, I mean, if someone tells me, hey, I know something that'll give you 6 times return your money, I'm just gonna keep putting money in there. So guys, if you're interested, this is not some corny salesy cheesy line. We only have so much available. We really only have, and especially now because we're working really close on just maximizing Sierra and GGMS and working directly in the platform. No more external dialing or anything like that. We're just solely focused on growing through the platform. So we have a total of about 7 spots. Those are entry level spots. So if somebody comes in, they're like, hey, I want, your max package, and we only have 3 spots. And that would be available for August. Now we do grow it every single month. So if you don't get in this month, it doesn't mean you won't be able to get in another month, but that's what we have for August. So for everybody, if you want more information on this, you can go to ggms.com/appointments today.
Yep. I dropped this inside the chat as well. So wherever you're watching this at, you should be able to see this, and just, click on the link. There's a form there, fill it out, have a conversation with Matt, see if it's something that, would match up with your business needs and goals and all of that. And if it is, great. If it's not, that's great as well. But his team's there. They understand what we're doing. They understand the formula that we have. They understand how to take those priority leads that we keep driving to that filter and actually get them on the phone, have the conversation with them, qualify them, and book that appointment, right? So yeah, it's amazing what you've been able to do with the clients, and the success that we've had so far. You said 9 closings so far, I believe.
Seven so
Seven
far,
closings.
but
Okay.
I mean, I like where you're going with that. we're,
Yeah.
we're we're wanting more. We're wanting more. So
Totally.
yeah,
That's paychecks. That's 7 paychecks, right? That's 7 commission checks that have been paid out so far in just a couple months. And then on
Yep.
top of that, the amount of appointments. I mean, even when you look back at the Jim Powell thing and having 22 appointments, and it looked like, I don't know how long you've been working with Jim when that was
1 month.
produced. What was
1
it?
month.
1
month.
month. 22
Wait.
appointments in 1 month. Like, what would you do in your business, or how could you generate more revenue for your business if you had 22 additional appointments to go on? That's above and beyond everything else that you had going on in your business prior to that. That's just throwing 22 additional appointments. So even if the guy averages 15 appointments a month, over the course of a year, you're talking 180 additional appointments, right? Even if you had over 100 appointments a year that you added, like, what would that do for your business? So even over the course of a year, the investment, $9,000 over the course of a year, right? 75, carry the one, yeah.
Yeah.
9,000 over the course of a year. If his team was able to put you on 100 additional appointments over the course of a year, 100 appointments. I mean, what could you do with that? You're going to get your $9,000 back. Now, it's still going to take the work, right? We talked earlier about there's not really a way around it. There's only a way through it, and you can have help with it. Things like what we do, help, text, emails, all of the automations, digital marketing, like, that's help through the problem, not around it, but through the problem. His team is there to help get you through the problem. But ultimately, when that appointment gets booked, you're going to have to go meet with them. You're going to have and use good language on that appointment to be able to, really take that thing across the finish line. But these are tools and systems and processes that we're able to help you with to get you closer to that deal and remove some of the tedious steps that you have to constantly do, right? So, yeah, just wanted to throw that out there because it's worth the call, right? At the end of the day, it's worth having a call with Matt and just seeing what his team can do and how they can help. Contracts, Matt, what does it look like, starting, stopping, and all those kind of things, so everybody understands, like, what that looks like?
Yeah, it's short term. It's 4 month. It's a 4 month commitment. The reason why we even put it at 4 months is because we realized that it takes a couple of months before you start to see deals coming from it, and whether it's deals or it's just in a contract. I mean, something that comes from that, so that
Yeah,
it just takes time to build.
totally. Yep. Anything else, Matt? Anything? Any other big, things that viewers out there should know or be thinking about?
Yeah, so if you have callers now, and this is something that we just kind of opened this part up more because I've realized that a lot of folks that we talk to, they already have people that call. And so if your guys need some help on that, I mean, our team, I mean, in total, I think when we ran the numbers, it was like, I think like 12,000 appointments or something, like over the course of like a year or so. It was a lot of appointments that got set.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that's like all of the clients we have in total, not just GGMS, but like if you have callers that you're struggling with, or maybe you think they're doing okay, but maybe they can do better, I'm happy to hop on a call and just even, listen to some calls, and then just see if maybe there's some hidden gaps in your business that you may be overlooking, and there might be some areas we can help. Also, if you're interested just in like the video element of it, I mean, there's definitely opportunities there. That's a whole lot less than the 750. I mean, it's a fraction of that, but I mean, again, there are other things that we can do to help drive results.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, we've got the link on the screen right now, ggms.com/appointments-today. We also dropped it inside the chat. So anybody, wherever you're watching this, you should have it inside the chat there. Matt, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate, the things that you do and the way we've been able to help the community. If anybody is on the fence about trying, it out, just reach out to Matt, have that conversation with him. Matt did change quite a few things from some of the early learnings. So things back in April and May. So, if you had gotten into this early on and then thought, okay, maybe this isn't it, or, reach out again. We've worked out a lot of things, smoothed out a lot of the processes, and his team's rocking and rolling at this point. So they're in there, they're making the dials, they're getting the appointments, and ultimately that's what this is all about.
Absolutely.
Yep.
No,
Cool.
I thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Look
Thanks,
forward
Matt.
to, yep. See ya.
Yeah. See ya.